We have a great guest joining us today. I'm going to go right to that interview. We have Congressman Chip Roy joining us on phone, and he has been on the show, I think, years ago, back when we were at another network, but he is now a congressman from Texas, CD21. He is a stellar, outspoken, articulate conservative, just a real hero to the conservatives around America. By way of quick background, He's worked for a variety of the stellar leaders in the Republican Party. He's worked for Senator Cornyn on the Judiciary Committee. He has been a former prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Texas. He worked with Governor Perry, Texas Governor Perry, as Director of Office of Federal Relations and also on his presidential campaign. He's worked for Ted Cruz. He was Ted Cruz's chief of staff when he was elected to the Senate. He's in Texas so well known, working for Ken Paxton, our Attorney General, and he now is himself a member of Congress from the great state of Texas, CD21. And I think we have Chip online. Hello, sir.
Debbie, how are you? Thanks for having me on. Great to be back on your show.
Very happy to have you. And I must tell you, I mentioned before we came on, enjoying watching your career, if nowhere else on Facebook. You just do. I learned so much about what you're doing in Washington. So appreciate that. All of your ability to be outspoken and take on the tough issues, and you're just great. Well, I want to start with, actually, I saw today there was a hearing. This relates to border security, but there was a hearing involving the DHS chief McAleen, and you made some great comments that you were kind of, in your questioning of him, kind of just pointing out that the danger at the border is not really, or the America's southern border is not ICE, as the left seems to claim, but actually the danger at the border comes from the cartels. Can you just address that briefly?
Yeah, Debbie, glad to. Look, the hard left of the Democratic Party, which has taken over leadership. I don't think Nancy Pelosi is really the speaker anymore. We've got the four speakers, as I call them, who are calling all the shots, and they seem to want to vilify ICE, our law enforcement community that stand on the line, keeping us safe, finding criminals and figuring out how to deport them, but also running detention facilities while we figure out how to process those who come here illegally. They want to make them the enemy. They're not the enemy. The enemy is the cartels, who are operationally controlling our border, who are using people for profit by moving them across the border. And we talked about it in the hearing today, and the acting secretary confirmed what we've known, which is that they get upwards of $10,000 moving somebody across the border, depending on who it is. And they do it all for profit. And this is a important issue that we talked about today, where we have to recognize that ICE is doing its job despite Democrats' failure to give them the resources necessary. They don't have the bed space. They don't have the facilities to move people to and detain them. And they're restricted from being able to detain families together under the flawed so-called Flores settlement and extension of that by a court. And as a result, we can't do anything but catch families and then release them. As a result, children become the golden ticket to come into our country. It's not even about asylum as much as it is about using this child as a ticket to get in, that is then causing us to be overrun, fill our system, not have facilities, and it's stoking the flames of the crisis. We can address it. As I said in the hearing, it'd be a one-page simple solution to fix it. The Democrats in the House refused to do it, despite the fact Obama supported it, despite the fact Obama supported funding ICE. These Democrats refused to do it because they're using children for crass, cynical purposes.
That was a great summary. I want to mention to our listeners, we're speaking with Congressman Chip Roy. He has several pieces up at the Federalist. One is called "ICE Isn't the Enemy. The Drug Cartels Weaponizing the U.S. Border Are." Everything we'll talk about today, the stories we'll talk about, you can track down the exact stories on my website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage, go to shows, go down a list of links, and you'll find a link to this article. But I want to turn the attention, if we can, our attention to the detention centers. Many on the American left, including the squad, the four freshman Democrats, have claimed that the detention centers, places where holding people who entered America illegally and were still in the process of determining whether or not they have a right to stay here, that those detention facilities should be really considered something like concentration camps. And they are just ugly pictures described, ugly scenes allegedly happening inside the detention detention centers, and I know you visited one in Colorado last week. In fact, I think it was the same one where some protesters actually took down the U.S. flag and put up the Mexican flag, and then they also defamed or defaced a Blue Lives Matter type American flag. But you went inside, you both visited the center, you saw what the facility was like. So can you describe for our listeners from your firsthand walkthrough last week what the detention center really looks like inside in Colorado?
Sure. And to be clear, this is an ICE detention facility, which is a little bit different than the Border Patrol detention facilities, which were created as a side note under Obama temporarily, right? Or not temporarily, they were putting up quickly to be able to deal with the surge of the unaccompanied children that were coming in 2014. They put them together. They put the chain link fences in place to separate out children from adults to keep people safe. Created their air conditioned, all those things. We continue to maintain them that way. They're not meant for long-term housing. What we need to do is process them within about 48 hours, get them out, and then get them to an ICE detention facility where you then can process them and have immigration judge make adjudications and then decide if they have some asylum claim or they need to be deported. I went to this ICE facility in just outside of Denver in Aurora after this flag incident where they raised the Mexican flag, put down the American flag, defaced it with abolish ICE, turned it upside down and re-raised it. This is the kind of people we're dealing with. I went into the facility to check it out, to see what all the complaints were about. There are 1,200 people in this facility. 80% of them are from the surge across the border. 59 countries represented. These are people who are being paid for by taxpayer dollars, being detained, and they have televisions, video games, iPads where they can read news in their home countries. They have doctors, medicine, a dentist in the place, ping pong tables, 3 square meals, clean facilities, bunk beds. They were in there. They were playing in a gym, shooting hoops, watching television, playing games. This was a safe, secure, and clean facility. I would suspect that the average American taxpayer would be very frustrated that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to have such detention facilities to house those who continue to flout our laws, and that the very laws that Democrats refuse to crack down on and make sure that we have a secure border. That's what we're dealing with.
Thank you for that description. And thank you also for just being so outspoken. And you write these great pieces so people can actually read about your time visiting that ICE facility and what you saw. And it really is, it's a disgrace that we have to have arguments made to ignorant American people that somehow we Americans in our facilities are treating people the way that some on the left claim we are. I want to turn, though, to healthcare, because this is an area in which you've been an extraordinary leader in Washington. You know, it seemed like the Republicans we campaigned a lot on getting rid of Obamacare, trying to end it, trying to do different things. But we really have the healthcare system in America is a little bit of a mess. It is the kind of hangover of Obamacare, which has been gutted in part, but still hangs around and strangles insurance companies and strangles individuals. So you've come up with a proposal called Healthcare Freedom Accounts. And again, for our listeners, you can go and read this article. If you go to our website, americacanwetalk.org, homepage on shows, go down, list of links, you'll find this article, which is by Congressman Chip Roy. Americans don't need socialized medicine, they need healthcare freedom. Can you just give us kind of the rough parameters of your idea to deal with the healthcare situation in America?
Sure, Debbie, of course. Of course, that's a long conversation, but let's start with the short and the basics. We're all frustrated with Obamacare, but we're not frustrated with Obamacare just because of it as a political issue. We're frustrated with high prices for health care, too many regulations, and more importantly, too many government bureaucrats and insurance bureaucrats between us and our doctors. We have limited options. We have too many networks to go through. We have these high deductibles. We get stuck by having an employer-provided health care plan that you then have to figure out how to change jobs and how to change insurance. And all of that is unnecessary. We need to free up the system. We need to get prices down. We need to get it to where you have a doctor. You can go directly to your direct primary care provider. Picture the old doctor with a black bag coming to your house or picking up your cell phone and saying, hey, I've got some congestion. Can you work out an antibiotic? All right, we'll come in real quick or I'll swing by. You want that kind of a relationship with your doctor instead of this distant kind of third-party relationship where you have to call some 25-year-old kid in Omaha, Nebraska who's looking at a sheet of paper that some insurance company put in front of him with some schedule and say, well, that'll be $400. Here's your MRI. That'll be $3,000. Wait, what are you talking about? So we free that up. What do? We create what we call a health freedom account, which is essentially a health savings account on steroids. It is a relatively uncapped, very large ability to save money, ability to transfer dollars from one person to another. You can help somebody, transfer dollars to an heir, contribute to the account relatively unlimitedly with tax break, and more importantly, your employer can provide money to your health freedom account in a way that would be tax advantaged, the same way they do when they provide you your insurance plan. The idea here is to break free from employer-provided insurance, allow employers to keep doing it. Let's be clear. But we want to change the model so they're able to provide insurance funding, tax advantage to them, tax advantage to you, and you get to be able to go out in the market, get an insurance plan, and then keep it. It eliminates the pre-existing problem in the cradle, right? It stops it from the beginning because you're not having to have a situation where you're moving from one employer to the next in a world in which we sometimes have 10, 11, 15 jobs. So you can have your insurance just like you do your homeowners, just like you do your automobile, and be able to carry that from one to the next. Then we've got other things that we're talking about to get drug prices down. We want to make sure there's a safety net that is improved and enforced so that it'd be better. And there's a lot of other conversations we can have. But the idea behind the Health Freedom Account is to free it up, get prices down, and get you back to your doctor.
You know, Chip, one thing I meant to mention introducing you, again, we're speaking with Congressman Chip Roy, and one other point I meant to mention in introducing you was you formerly were with the Texas Public Policy Foundation, one of the most stellar state-based think tanks that comes up with policy ideas all the time. And I knew you'd be stellar in Washington because you think along those terms. You think in terms of how to make what policy will actually address the problem, and especially in this era with the Democrat presidential candidates, pretty much all, in one degree or another, committed to Medicare for all, which is another way of saying socialized medicine. Government takes over the whole system. I love the idea that you are putting ideas out there for the American people to consider and understand so that we have some alternative to what the left seems to be trying to push us toward, which is essentially government-controlled healthcare or socialized medicine. So I love that you did this. Are you at the point in this idea where it's just an idea, or have you moved forward in a bill yet?
No, we have dropped legislation that is serving as the vehicle for the discussion point. Obviously, we can amend it, change it, tweak it, and get ideas, but we have a bill. And it does exactly what I just described. We plan on introducing additional legislation to continue to supplement it. But the idea, again, direct primary care, health sharing ministries, ways for us to get back to caring for each other, going to your doctor directly, not having to go to insurance bureaucrats to tell you how you get your health care. They're just as bad as government bureaucrats. Let's be honest. I want to get back to insurance that insurance is supposed to be, right? You wreck your car, you call them, you go, I got a wrecked car, I need to fix it, right? You want to have the same thing in healthcare, but you really want to use that as more of a last resort. You don't have to go to insurance for your healthcare any more than you want to go to your car insurance to go put gas in your car or fix a flat tire. You want to be able to manage that, afford it, and the way to do that is get prices down, increase options, increase competition, and have all the choices you want to have in a 21st century world. We want the Uberization of healthcare, right? We want the iPhone of healthcare. We don't want to friggin' go backwards and go back to these monolithic big insurance companies who tell you how to have your healthcare.
Okay, I'm going to steal that line, the Uberization of healthcare. I love that. That's so clever. Okay. Congressman Chip Roy, we could have spent an hour talking just about the border situation and what you saw and the proposals and how the left is conducting themselves in Congress and the battle ongoing to deal with actually funding what is needed at our border to make our border secure and to deal with this influx of refugees or people who want to become, who are seeking asylum. But we agreed to a quick interview, so I'm going to let you go. But let me just tell you, I love talking with you. Thank you so much for making time to join us today.
Happy to come on anytime, Debbie. Seriously, you're doing great. Keep spreading the gospel, both the gospel that for our Heavenly Father, but also the gospel of freedom. So keep it up.
Amen to that. Congressman Roy, thank you so much for joining me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, folks, that is one of the heroes of Washington. If you follow conservative policies of any kind and you wonder what is happening in Washington, and now you know, of course, that he is a member of the U.S. House, so the Democrats have the majority. He is fighting up, going upstream, fighting upstream. always working to try to bring conservative solutions. He is a substantive, brilliant guy. I actually know him years ago, and he's at Texas Public Policy Foundation. And at some point, he was on the show talking about some policy they were looking at that time. But he is one of the real heroes of the U.S. House. New is his first term, and I will tell you that his seat is one of the primary ones targeted by the American left. The idea that a bright, articulate, policy-oriented, hardworking, clear-spoken, plain-spoken, clear-thinking, when he cross-examines witnesses, when he's in the hearings in the House. I mean, I was watching it today on Facebook thinking, man, I wouldn't want to get sideways with him because he's so smart about things. He's just wonderful. So he does have a primary challenger, and the Democrats are pouring out of all the U.S. House seats in the state of Texas. Congressman Chip Roy's is one of the primary ones the Democrats are looking at to try to take away, because they look at first-year members of Congress as a little more vulnerable. They hope they are, and they've got a very radical leftist they've identified as the person that the Democrats are going to put up to challenge Congressman Roy. So if you are interested in supporting somebody, I don't work for him, I don't get any money out of this, but I'm telling you, he would be a great congressman for you to follow and support, Congressman Chip Roy. And again, so grateful he could join us today.